So today we're going to look at services marketing. We're going to hopefully cover the whole thing in today's class. And excuse me, good timing as always. So as always, we'll start with introduction and go through elements of definitions and so on, and go back over things that we have mentioned earlier in the semester and hopefully reinforce that and build on that foundation. So when we talk about product in marketing, sometimes we mean a physical good, sometimes it is a generic term, and in many cases can include services. So it's whatever it is we're selling, whatever it is our company that we represent is offering to the customer. There are basic characteristics of service industries which differentiate them from other business operators. And these characteristics, as we call them, these are the issues we have to overcome, because from a customer's point of view, it's very hard for a customer to decide between two different companies offering a similar service. There isn't something to taste, to smell, to look at. It's not tangible. And that gives a difficulty to the customer, and their difficulty is our difficulty. So what we have come up with as marketers is we have an extended marketing mix. So instead of using the 4 Ps, we're now using 7 Ps. So we have the extended marketing mix, an additional 3 Ps of services that will help us overcome those characteristics in our marketing activities. So those extra Ps are people, process, and physical evidence. So we're going to be talking about those over the course of these slides and this talk. So getting on the same page with definitions, services. Generally, it's something that's produced at the same time as they're consumed, and they can't be stored or taken away. So yet another reason, an enhanced marketing mix needs to be used, the extended marketing mix. So if you think of a flight from here to Paris, if you have a business meeting at 9 a.m. Monday morning, you need that flight to get you there on time. You don't need a flight the following Tuesday or the previous Monday. That's a different service. If you're not on the flight going, the red eye going to Paris before Monday morning, then you are not availing of that particular service. So those separately identifiable but intangible activities that provide want satisfaction. So we're in the business of satisfying our customers' needs and wants, and that are not of necessity ties to the sale of a product. So it could be the warranty on the physical good, and that's a service element as well. Any activity of benefit that one party can offer to another that is essentially intangible, there's nothing to touch, nothing to smell, nothing to see, and it does not result in the ownership of anything. So these are the characteristics of services, just put in a diagram for people who think visually, lock it into your brain. Intangibility, inseparability, variability, and perishability. And we'll talk through each of them. We'll keep referring back to them, but these are something you need to memorize. You need to remember characteristics of services. It's not a wishy-washy answer. It's 4 defined things that are looked for if that is a question on an exam paper for marketing. Intangibility, inseparability, variability, and perishability. So getting into definitions, and obviously if it's a 10% question, it's not just the 4 words, you need some explanation for each of them. So intangibility, that is the lack of physical substance. You can't touch it. It's intangible. Tangible would be if you can hold it and touch it. This could be the element that is complementing a physical product, as we've said earlier. So again, it could be the warranty element of the package. Inseparability. There is no existence separate from the provider, and so the performance of a service occurs at the same instance as its consumption. If you were not sitting on that plane at the moment of takeoff, the flight is taking off and you were not on it, you were not availing of that particular service. If you have to get a later flight or an earlier flight, that's a different service. So you are now availing of that one. You can't send somebody else to go on to sit on that seat to avail of that service for you if you were the one that needs to be in Paris for 9 o'clock Monday morning. You can send somebody to the canteen to bring you back a can of Coke. If they're going for their own lunch and they're going to be coming back, you can say, bring me back a can of Coke. You are still going to be able to consume that Coke, but you cannot do something similar with a service. You can't send them to get a haircut if you're the one that needs the haircut. So that's the inseparability. You can't separate the performance and the consumption. They are together. Perishability means it can't be stored. So you can't go ahead of time. If you have been invited to a dinner party in a particular restaurant on a Friday night, you can't go on Thursday to get it out of the way, because the service is being provided on that particular day. So you can't go ahead of time. The restaurant can't sort of serve some of the customers on the Thursday because it'll be very busy on that Friday because it's a very large party and it's filling the restaurant. So there are issues on both sides there. And related perishability and variability, they're very closely together. They're linked issues, they're linked characteristics. So variability, the quality can vary widely. So for instance, that particular restaurant on a busy night, they're booked out solid for this party or other parties. It's coming up to Christmas, blah, 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 blah. The service that every customer on that day will get, that the quality of service will be entirely different than if they go at 4 p.m. on a Tuesday when nothing has happened, on a Tuesday in January where people are tightening their belts after Christmas, literally and figuratively. So it can vary. You on a particular restaurant, you might get a waiting staff on their first day of the job and they don't know where anything is and they forget your order, they forget to write things down or follow the system. And then you have somebody who's been working there years and they're so efficient and they're just, boom, boom, boom. So there is inbuilt variability because of the nature of the thing. That's another issue to overcome from our side, from our point of view as marketers. That's something that we should look at and work out ways to overcome it. So we'll come back to that in a little while. So when we mentioned the first characteristic, intangibility, there are degrees. There is a spectrum of intangibility to tangibility. So whether it is, so on this, in this diagram, I've got it on the vertical axis here, a continuum going from totally service dominated, so intangible, nothing to actually hold, down to the other end of the extreme, a physical good dominated item, so totally tangible, something you can see, something you will own at the end of the transaction. And so we can see we have different items and they're moving through the scale in different degrees of tangibility and intangibility. In the extreme tangible example is dog food. Um, Now, the reason it doesn't even tip into the service side at all is that people typically don't expect even a money back guarantee on most dog food. They will either buy the dog food or they will not buy the dog food. If they think that the dog does not like it, they probably just buy a different brand next time. They're not going to right away and complain. They're not going to expect to get anything back. They're not collecting. Just it just is what it is, and nobody is expecting anything else. Nobody is offered anything. Whereas you buy other things, such as a car, we move up the spectrum in a second. In a car, you do expect a service element. Literally, you expect to be able to bring it back for a service, perhaps. Um, if there's any issues within 3 months, for example, it's quite common to have a free service in that time if there are issues, and it will be fully covered in the warranty that a garage will have given you. Moving up again, obviously for a new car, there could be a 7-year warranty or a 5-year warranty or things like that. But secondhand cars, perhaps just 3 months. So different levels. In that case, tailored suit, then, you're getting into the more bespoke, and that it's the bespoke nature of the suit, the actual where the tailor measures the person and cuts to fit that size, that person. That is the element that is above the line in this case. And obviously the physical product at the end of it, the proof that you have availed of this is the physical good, pushing it more down the other side of the line. And it may surprise some people to see that fast food perfectly straddles the line across the middle. What some people are paying for when they go into McDonald's or other fast food chains is they are paying for the consistency, the reliability, the speed, as the name suggests, of getting that food in a timely fashion. And knowing exactly what they get, especially people traveling abroad. Most McDonald's are pretty similar across different countries. Um, and it's that consistency. So if you go in and you have a server who's on their first day of the job on one day, and you go in another day and there's maybe a busload of match supporters or something are there and it's crazy busy, and you go in another day and you have it's just an average busy day, and you have a server who has worked there for years, the product will still be the same. Your burger will still taste the same, usually, unless there's extremes. But McDonald's have worked very hard in their planning to overcome some of these issues, especially this variability, the heterogeneity element with their processes. So if we go back to looking at people process, so it's one of the extended marketing mix. So fast food companies use process as a means to overcome some of the characteristics of services. So the inseparability, perishability, and variability all are overcome by partly process and people. So they train their staff. All staff have the same training. They have the McRules handbook. They can look up and everything. There is a rule for everything, and there is a process for everything. There is a way of doing it. All the machines are very high-end machines. It's not just a fat fryer that a local chipper might have. It's, the staff are trained, they fill the basket with fries, they stick it in the fat, and they press the button. When the beep goes off, they take the fries up. If they're on the burger counter, they stick the burger on the grill, they press a button. When the beeper goes off, they flip the burger, press the button. When the beeper goes off again, they take the burger off. Everything is exactly timed, and you just follow the beeps. Guess who has worked in McDonald's? Um, Maybe some of you have too. And you know what I'm talking about, or a lot of similar places. So they're using these processes, they're using these machinery, they're using the training of their staff to always do it the same way. And as long as you've had that training, which only takes a short while, but when you start working there, you're given a station, so you're only doing fries, or you're only doing burgers, or you're only working on the till, and that allows you to become good at it in a short space of time. And so there is no variability between you on your first day, as long as you've already gone through that training, and somebody on their fifth year working in the place. And so that's people and process working together to overcome these issues. So they overcome the inseparability issue. So inseparability and perishability, it's really because you can, people want to eat when they want to eat. And, that bus of crowd of people going to the match, they all descend into the shop at the same time, and suddenly it's very busy. So all these processes and all these fancy machinery and the way the staff are just doing one job, and the kind of production line approach to preparing and serving the food means they can serve in a short space of time. They can go from being really quiet, nobody in the shop, to being suddenly really busy, run off their feet, and get the food out really quickly and reliably, that nobody is upset by this service. So everybody gets their food, they're not left there for hours. You could compare that with a burger van that's parked on the road outside a stadium on match day. And sometimes those places, sometimes it's very good quality, but sometimes you get a half-cooked burger, or you get these soggy, warm, greasy chips that really are, they're just not very pleasant. And they're so busy, they're not paying attention to how well they're cooking things, and they're just throwing out the food. So that variability is rampant in those small places. And maybe it's just lack of training or lack of care, or who knows. But some of these other places work very hard in their planning, and their whole business model is centered around overcoming these issues: inseparability, perishability, and variability. So another thing restaurants can do to overcome some of these is a booking system. So again, that helps with the inseparability and perishability, because when everybody wants to eat at 7 o'clock perhaps. And so when all the 7 o'clock tables are booked out, the staff can say, well, we're fully booked on Friday at 7 p.m., but we have some tables on Saturday or Sunday, or we have we'll have some tables available at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock or 6 o'clock. And so they can offer some other options in that case. Now, so I had the continuum going on the vertical axis, and now we just look at it at another variation. So again, for visually minded people, we're just going to, flip it on its other side. And so this is taken from another book. And so here we've got pure good on one side, going over to the right, pure service. And so other examples on this. So we've got clothing is a pure good. Carpets, less so. Now they're not kind of pushing things over the line, so really it should be a little bit it's basically moving along the axis. So carpets is a little bit more of a service than clothing. Clothing, typically people are buying it off the shelf, and the only element of service really is if it is of bad quality or something is wrong with it, falls apart in the wash or something, you can bring it back and get your money back or get a replacement. Whereas a carpet, the extra element that pushes it down the right hand side more towards service side is that usually when people buy carpet, they pay to have it fitted as well. So that fitting service where they put it into your house for you is more of a service, but still mostly on the side of good. So heading towards the middle, we've got machinery and software design. So on either side of the middle of this continuum. So in terms of machinery, yes, you're buying a physical product in this machine, whether it's something for the factory or something that perhaps needs to be built into a factory. It could be some farm machinery or something of that sort. But again, there's going to be probably a service element to that. There's going to be warranty, guarantees. There could be training involved as well in how to use it. As I said, kind of plant machinery has to be installed physically, built into the factory. And things like that. So that's the service side of things. With software design, obviously it's the design, the bespoke nature, and it's less about having a physical thing, and it's more about having, getting all the updates over time, getting the training, having it installed. Perhaps if it's a business to business account, the software, the company supplying the software will probably send a technician to install it on all the PCs in the building and perhaps provide training sessions for the staff to show them how to use it and stuff like that. So that's pushing it towards more of a service and less of a product. And then even more of a service is marketing research. A huge amount of work goes into doing market research before there's the only real thing that could be called a product is maybe if there is the campaign collateral, the creative element, if there is an ad or physical 2D posters, video, any kind of graphics that has been produced, and perhaps a report as well of the findings of the research is the physical thing as well, whether it's in soft copy or hard copy. It's still what we would call a physical thing. It's still proof that that service was taken. And then the most extreme element of the service would be psychotherapy. People who avail of this service, they don't walk out of there holding something, they don't look any different. It's a talking service. In a hairdresser's, you come out with a new hairstyle, even though, it is largely an event that happens, but people can see that it has happened. You have this hairstyle that hopefully looks a lot better than it did before. With psychotherapy or nursing could be interchanged there as well. You're availing of a service of nursing if you're in hospital for a period of time, but there's no actual kind of physical proof. You don't walk away owning something. You just hopefully feel better as a result of the service in both cases. So going back to the characteristics of services, and you'll see they kind of recognize the bones of this diagram, and we're going to expand each one separately across the next slides. So looking at intangibility, so this is where we're talking about a deed or performance. And the issue is that there's difficulty for the customer in evaluating between your service and the competitor's service. And so what do they do? And what can we do to make it easier for the customer? We can give them something tangible. They're looking around, looking for something to judge us by. Let's give it to them. So we give them tangible cues. So if we go back to our 3 Ps, the tangible cues, to put a P on it, is physical evidence. This is something that we can give our customers, we can show our customers as proof that we're good, that we're better than the competitor. It's something they can judge us on. And so if you are on holiday in Lanzarote and you suddenly have a toothache and you need to use a dentist, you have no recommendations, you don't know the place, you just see above the shop in this town where you're staying, there is a dentist, and it's an emergency. You can't wait until you're going home. You can't start booking a flight to get home tomorrow. You want to go and get it sorted now. So you walk in and you see, well, I'll go and check it out. I'll see. When you walk up the stairs and you walk in there, close your eyes for a second. What do you expect to find? Do you expect to find a 20-year-old carpet with every stain under the sun, like some near retirement accountancy office? Or does it, when you walk in, is it all glass and spotlights and white walls and lovely uniforms and everybody has smiles to cut the eyes out of you, and you nearly need sunglasses walking in, and the smell of a hospital around, that's sort of sterilizing smell, antiseptic smell in the air. All of these are tangible cues provided by that dentist, because they know that you are, from the moment you walk in, before you walk in, you're already judging the place. Does any of this mean they're a good dentist, that they're actually going to look after your mouth? Um, Hard to tell, but this is all you have right now. So as a customer, customers are looking for tangible cues. So as marketers, we need to understand that, and we need to give them those cues that they're looking for. Give them that physical evidence. So what other physical evidence would help in that scenario in the dentist office? How can we further reassure the customer walking in with the pain in their jaw that they're safe here, that they're in safe hands, that these are qualified people and good at their jobs? Firstly, you expect uniforms, professional look in all the staff, the dental nurses, the receptionists, the dentists, clean, sterile looking uniforms as well. Good teeth, everybody. If somebody in reception had like lots of gaps or black teeth or something, you would just turn around and walk out, I think, if they can't keep their own teeth clean or healthy. It's not a good sign. How else can we reassure our customer that they're in safe hands, that they have qualified people working here? We can have certificates up on the wall in the reception. We can show that they are qualified, have all these, and show that we have passed inspections or won awards or whatever is the equivalent in our own industry. So give them something to look at. So a hotel trying to sell a wedding package, again, you can't try before you buy. This engaged couple, they can't have a trial run as such they can't experience their wedding before their wedding. but we can give them some tangible cues. We can work on this. We can give them physical evidence. We can show them a brochure that has pictures in it. So the brochure itself is a tangible cue. The pictures therein are also tangible cues. The website with our gallery of photos from other people's weddings, they are something to look at. They are more physical evidence. We can bring them into the dining hall where the reception could be had. We can have a table dressed as it would with, you know, the lovely tablecloth, the flower arrangement, all the fine, all the finery laid out as it would be for a wedding, the lovely covers on the chairs, all that sort of thing, and say, look, here's an example. They could have the whole room dressed, ready for a reception, and say, here's one that's already laid out for a wedding tomorrow or whatever. So there are lots of ways. We can bring them on a walking tour. We can bring them on a virtual tour before they get here. They can do tasting sessions with the menu. So lots of physical evidence helping us as marketers to overcome that intangibility issue, that characteristic of service, intangibility. Now, moving on. So inseparability then, it's all about the simultaneous consumption and production. We can't separate them. So in this case, the importance is on us, the service provider, in our selection, our training and rewarding of staff. So we need them to be efficient. When that busload of people come in, we need them to get on point and just work their way through serving as many as possible in the shortest amount of time and having a system there to cope with that. Or, as we said, maybe the booking system that allows that maybe offers alternatives. If we're already full at that particular time slot, that we offer alternatives, and we say, you know, because some people, maybe it's a treat and maybe they will be okay with moving to a Thursday or a Saturday or whatever it is, and take an alternative time. Yeah, so that's all. And if staff are on bonuses and tips and so on for getting through more customers, they're going to be more efficient. We can avoid inter-customer conflict, again, by stretching out these times, by offering alternatives, so we don't have everybody descending on the restaurant at the same time. If they know a booking system is in place, they are not going to arrive without a booking. They're likely going to ring well in advance and make that booking or take an alternative time or whatever. We can also have a waiting area. So a bar area before their table is ready, the party can be already started in this other holding area, so they can still they're still availing of the ambience of the restaurant and they're still having a good time. And we are managing to finish up maybe a table that has run over time or something like that. So it allows us to manage the busy times as well. And, you know, because they're not at a traditional table in this other area, we can fit a lot of people into that section if we need to. Okay, so just in words form, text form rather. So intangibility, what we can do is we add tangible elements or symbols. We focus on the benefits in the sales pitch and our advertising campaigns and so on. And we differentiate on quality, reliability and value for money. To overcome inseparability, we work on customer orientation so that they know there is a booking system or that they have to carry their own tray to the table and clear their own table or whatever it is. The training of staff, motivation, quality, reliability systems, all of those help us in overcoming those. Next, we have variability. So lots of different reasons why the service today could be different than the service tomorrow. Standardization is difficult for some services more than others. And again, the answer is partly in the selection, training, and rewarding of staff so that they know what to do. They're properly trained. We hire properly experienced staff, and we have a system that they need to follow, and that will help them with this consistency issue. So we're trying to make ourselves more consistent and reduce variability by having well-trained, well-experienced staff, by having a system that they know they need to follow. So even if they're on their first day, once we tell them what the system is, they just need to follow it. It's not on them to try and figure things out on on demand. Evaluation systems in place, so their performance, their bonuses maybe, or are based on how well the company is doing, or on particular days, on busy days, they get bonuses and things like that if it has worked well. So now the final one then is perishability. So consumption cannot be stored. And this is where we need to match supply and demand. Again, the people element of our extended marketing mix is part of the solution. So the use of part-time staff, multi-skilling of staff. So in quiet times, maybe waiting staff can be helping out in the kitchen with food prep, or they can be preparing, in some restaurants, they have cutlery rolled up in napkins and makes it faster to reset a table. Maybe they can be preparing that kind of thing in advance. In McDonald's, they get ready the Happy Meals in advance, the boxes, they have them open and slotted into each other. They have the toy already in there. And so you can have like stacks of them if they know they're going to be busy with that kind of a crowd. And then just put the food in as necessary, and they can have various things already prepared and ready to grab and so on. Participation by customers so that they know there's either a booking system or they handle their own tray, they come up to the counter to order, all that sort of thing. Differential pricing. Now, this is something we haven't mentioned. This is a way of stretching out that peak time. So I mentioned already that most people want to book their table for 7 o'clock on a Friday evening, certainly in Ireland anyway. That would be a peak time for restaurants. What can happen is a pre-theatre menu. So off-peak, the pub trade would have the equivalent of happy hour, so cheaper drinks at a particular time. So in the restaurant trade, it's usually called a pre-theatre menu, and it can be 5 to 6 o'clock or something like that, and it's a limited menu at a earlier time than the peak time, and it is stretching out. So some of the people who might ordinarily have wanted to book their table to sit down somewhere between 7 and 9. As I said, that peak time when people want to come into the restaurant, some of those might be convinced by this cheaper menu to come in earlier, and they will be gone by the time the peak occurs. So their cheap prices are contingent on them closing out their bill by a certain time usually. So that's differential pricing. Stimulation of off-peak demand is the same thing. So sometimes other elements can be used, that there can be, a free drink for orders before a certain time, or different ways of stimulating that other demand. As I said, with that booking system, if the peak time is already booked out, then they can offer other times. And for some people that would be okay. Other people may move on or go on a different day. Comfortable waiting area, again, this holding pen. We're not obviously going to officially call it that, but this other area where we can pack them in, we can send them over there. And from their point of view, their party has already started. They're having a good time. They're still in, a nice setting, and treated well by the staff and so on, getting the drinks in over there before the table is actually ready. So it also stretches things out a little bit. And the reservation system that we've mentioned. So text form, perishability, the main thing we can try to do is match demand with supply by price variations and promotions, and again, staff training and so on. And then variability is using, again, people. So perishability, it's a lot of that is on process and people. And in variability, again, it's mostly on the people, but some processes in the McDonald's and fast food examples as well. So staff selection, so choosing experienced people, or good training if you're hiring inexperienced people. Motivation as well, so how they're paid, whether or not they get bonuses for certain things, that sort of thing, to achieve that consistency that you're looking for. And objective quality measures, so something, a standard that they're trying to achieve. So the services marketing mix is an extension of the 4 Ps, as we mentioned. So the 4 Ps are product, price, promotion, place. You should be able to rattle those off at this point. Sometimes so product and price are always 1 and 2. Sometimes 3 and 4 can be interchanged: product, price, place, promotion. So I'll leave that to you. And the additional 3 Ps, physical evidence, process, and people. So in addition to the 4 Ps in the marketing mix for tangible products or a physical good, there are 3 more in the mix for services. Process, so user-friendly systems for buying and selling. So customers should not face any unnecessary bureaucracy or delays, and IT has has improved filing of customer records and created customer-friendly systems. So another really good example of a company that has used process basically to have the competitive advantage over many competitors across the world is Amazon. Amazon has nailed it for the process. That is their whole business model, and they have put many booksellers in the beginning. Amazon started as a bookseller, a book reseller, and they worked on the user-friendly system and website, e-commerce system on their website, to make it as easy as possible to purchase from them. So once you have made one purchase with them, most of your details is stored if you have given the permission for that. And then the next time you want to buy, or you're just browsing, it's practically click, click, boom, and you've bought it before you have really thought about whether you actually want it or need it. And they have revolutionized e-commerce. A lot of companies now have upped their game in the last number of years, in response to Amazon and used Amazon as a model to follow. So all e-commerce has improved as a result, but they really nailed process. This is what they were going after, and this is how that was, as I said, their competitive advantage. So the next P in our extended marketing mix for services is physical evidence. Services suffer from the intangible nature of the offering. So organizations are increasingly using devices such as newsletters to maintain customers' desire to have that service. So they send out emails if they have mailing lists. They have on their website elaborate galleries and testimonials and all sorts of things. And that leads neatly into people. So variability and inseparability mean that people involved are a key element in the process. So how the company treats customers will greatly impact upon the business. So when we are talking about people in the extended marketing mix, there are two groups. We're talking about using the customers on one hand and using our staff on the other. So both are very important. Both are included in the people of our extended marketing mix. So in terms of, as I mentioned, we use customer reviews as part of our website. So that's that's customers, that's people, that's also adding to the physical evidence as well on the website. It's something for people to look at, to read, and we can use the customers within the process as well, in terms of moving their own trays, going up and ordering, and knowing that they have to book a table and so on. So customers have to be trained as well as staff in those processes, for everything to work efficiently and so on. And sometimes variability can be a good thing. So here is an example of where Berlin Zoo used the issue of variability. So when you go to the zoo on a given day, sometimes you see some animals and other animals are hiding. And they're saying basically, this is why you should buy an annual ticket. You should come as often as possible because, this is showing a toucan bird hiding in the little nest box there, and that maybe next time you might see them if you come back again. Or maybe the one that was hiding, maybe the wolf was in an enclosure or away for feeding or whatever it is. And so you keep coming back and you have a different experience every time. So they're embracing variability as a good thing and saying, look, this is why you should come. On the other hand, Disney World have nailed the process element of the queuing. They're using process, one of the P's, to overcome the inseparability and perishability. So everybody comes at the same time. There are peak times. They suddenly are really busy and there's a queue a mile long, but they have all these snaking barrier rail things, moving the queue in a neat fashion, and it's not that obvious when you first join the queue how long it is. So you think, oh well, oh yeah, it's a long queue. I can see it. It's kind of snaking its way in it. Once I get up to there, I'll be in on the ride, and then you get up to that point and you get through this part and you see, oh, it actually continues in there. But it's all part of the excitement. They've nailed it in some senses. I mean, obviously, if the queue is too long, where you're hours waiting for a particular ride, then that's a different story. But the queuing is part of the excitement of being there, and they have the characters walking around and interacting with the crowd while they wait and so on. And so it's all part of the excitement, especially for kids and so on. for big kids. Now, there are barriers to achieving a level of service quality. So we talk about expected level of service and perceived level of service. So before a customer avails of a service, they have an expectation of what they will receive. And then obviously, after they have availed of the service, they have a perception of what they actually did receive. It's still their perspective. So if there is a mismatch between expected level of service and perceived level of service, if the perceived service is lower than expected service, they will be dissatisfied. If it is equal, they will be satisfied. And if perceived service is higher than the expected service, they will be delighted. So there are barriers to achieving satisfaction or higher. It can be misconceptions, inadequate resources, inadequate delivery, or exaggerated promises. So misconceptions can be that what they expected was never what they were going to achieve. So maybe they got the wrong end of the stick, maybe they got the wrong impression from ads. And the last point there is exaggerated promises. Maybe the salespeople started telling them there was going to be all sorts of bells and whistles. And then actually turns out that's not the case. So in both of those cases, the issue is they expected too much, and what they got was the reality, and what was always going to be what they got. And then the other side of, and so that's a problem in training our sales staff, and maybe how the sales staff perhaps are given bonuses. If they're commission only, then they're under pressure to make rent and so on. And rightly or otherwise, they will try and make that sale, and they'll say what they need to say to keep their sales up. So we need to look at if we want more ethically behaved sales staff, they need to be making a comfortable living on a base salary without the pressure of having to make a certain number of sales. Yeah, we want to give them a bonus on top of that. We want to give some commission. We want to some incentive for them to sell a bit more, but that they're not under pressure to sell. So that they will behave ethically and they will stay between the lines of what we want them to promise. So we should never over-promise. If anything, we should under-promise and over-deliver, and then we'll have delighted customers. But really, we're aiming for satisfaction. We need to be careful with all our communications, not just the salespeople. So our marketing activity, everything down from our packaging, from our branding, logos and everything. We have to make sure if we're selling, for example, an economy level of service, then all our communications, if they're indicating or hinting at a premium level, gold standard, blah, 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 then that in itself is over-promising. Everything we do, everything we communicate is taken by the customer as a promise. So we need to be careful what we say. We should never over-promise. We're not in the business of conning people, of just trying to grab that sale and get them in. They will be dissatisfied, and that is not a good long-term business. So again, for so many reasons in business, in this topic, it's good to be good. We want our salespeople to behave ethically. We want to behave ethically, and everything we communicate has to follow in line with that. So we need to be careful how we word things. We need to be careful with our branding. So if we are, as I said, offering some kind of economy or value type service, we need to shy away from premium imagery or language or anything like that. So that's one side of why expectation might be higher than the perceived level of service. And then the other two, inadequate resources and inadequate delivery. So maybe they had an appropriate expectation, but what they received was less than that appropriate expectation. So something went wrong, in other words. Maybe it was a really busy day, the staff were overstretched, somebody called in sick, and they just did not get a good service. They were waiting for ages for their food, if it was a restaurant, whatever it is, something did not deliver. That's again something we have to deal with as marketers. We have to try and preempt it. We should try and plan that if we're down one staff member, that shouldn't be that detrimental. We shouldn't be cutting it all so fine that if a person is missing, it all falls apart. We should have then an extra staff member rostered so that if somebody is missing, we can still cope. So exam type questions taken from some random papers. Again, often either 20% or 10% questions. So for your exam strategy, obviously spend 20 minutes, minute a mark, 20 minutes on a 20-mark question, 10 minutes on a 10-mark question, and that gives an indication of the depth of the answer that's required. Perhaps 1 to 2 pages, roughly speaking, for the 20-mark answer, and a half to 1 page for a 10-mark answer. But obviously it varies within that from one topic to another, or your style of answering, or your style of handwriting, and so on. We're not looking at determinants of serve qual, so we're going to skip that one. But in service marketing, what is meant by physical evidence, people, and process? So this is a 20-mark answer. You're looking for an essay type answer. So you're going to go in, you probably will start with talking about the 4 Ps, how it's extended to the 3 Ps, and you should bring in talking about the characteristics of services. So you could start with the characteristics of services and how the extended marketing mix was developed in order to help overcome, and so you can match them across to how that works. Explain the following terms from marketing perspective: intangibility, serve qual, or perishability. So these, I think, were taken from different papers. So sometimes it's just like explain these 2 terms or whatever. And so in that case, depending on what ones has been asked, look at how it's graded. Look at how you think it might be graded. If there were 2 elements here, explain 2 things, A and B, then it's going to be 5 marks each. If you do a wonderful essay talking about one of them and leave out the other one, you've just lost 5 marks. No matter how good this part A is, if you haven't got part B, you've lost those marks. That's the way a marking scheme works in an exam. So make sure you circle what is being asked and make sure that you answer all parts of the question. Anything in the question is likely in the marking scheme that there are specific marks towards. If it asks for examples, then there could be marks for the example. If the question doesn't ask for examples, still include an example. It's providing you with an opportunity to show off your knowledge. And that's what an exam is all about. It's showing off that you know this. You're trying to show off to the examiner, not just to me, that there will be an external examiner reviewing some of these, and I can't just throw marks at you. So help me give you marks. Make it as simple as possible for me to throw marks at you. So let's look at a couple of other questions. I didn't note down which papers they came from because some of these questions actually come up time and again. Explain the 3 specific challenges that face marketers of services. Explain 4 characteristics of services. Explain why these are 10 marks, so, up to a page on these things. Explain why the physical evidence is important in marketing of services. Support your answer with appropriate examples. So that dentist story I talked about, that's a really good, or a hotel selling a wedding package to a couple. It's a really heavily service, in the service side with very little tangible elements in being offered to the customer, and that's where physical evidence really comes in. In what 2 aspects can firms gain from improving their quality? Actually, we didn't go into quality of service. So serve qual is a particular element of service marketing, and it's deeper than we're going to go into, so you don't need to know that one. Okay, we'll leave it there, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. Just